control of the Branch Davidian complex. This squarely puts the blame for the murder of these children on these people as well as others. And the reason I say this, David Koresh is not here, or Vernon Wayne Howell, a.k.a., was not there. He was dead. Not there to prosecute. I'm not saying the man didn't need to be prosecuted, because I've always held him accountable. He should have sent the people out. But again, we have to remember that we had FBI agents, psychologists there. All of them were telling the FBI these people might kill themselves. Now, I never at any time believed they would, because it was against their religious beliefs. But they were being told that. So they proceeded on and pushed and pushed. So at this point, I say the FBI and those in charge, such as Janet Reno, have to be held accountable for that action. They had a fence around that property. They already had a penitentiary there, and they weren't going anywhere. They had all types of people around there, so if they'd have sat there for a year, what difference would it have made? They were in jail. And I'm going to go on. There is no question in my mind, as well as others that helped in this investigation, that the government knew the dangers of CS gas as they were washing the complex with. And to make matters worse, driving tanks into buildings, crushing people. And of course, the autopsies support this. Dr. Rodney Crowe of Tarrant County, Texas, at Fort Worth, can and will testify to this. Judge Walter Smith, we believe, was also a part of criminal wrongdoing at Waco, Texas. Regardless of our political or social status, we must all be held accountable for our actions. This particular incident is certainly one for a gauge in determining if we do or do not have two standards of justice. I have itemized many of the overt acts by the Justice Department and the U.S. Army, which follows in this letter. Gentlemen, you have each been elected and appointed to the position you now hold because of trust and honor that the citizens of your respective states that put you in the office. I must believe, as many Americans, that you are honorable, God-driven men, and that you will lay aside all political ties and seek out the truth in this matter. To me, the death of these children has consumed over 16 months of my life. I would ask only a few hours of your time to study the material before you. I would then charge you with the duty of your office to appoint a special prosecutor, totally independent of the U.S. government, and commission him to work freely of all political bearers and serve this great nation as it should be served. In doing so, the Davidians now in prison and at the hands of the vindictive system will be set free, and the perpetrators of these heinous crimes prosecuted and put behind bars so that justice can properly be served. And we're going to take, I think it's time, well, no, we've still got a minute or two here. So I'm going to go on just a little further with this, and these are some of the points that we brought, again, before Congress. And we named names, and these people were interviewed, by the way, and the things that we stayed here, we swore to. And, and again, this stuff is all coming up again today. No action was taken in 95. Anyway, not the action that should have been taken. Yes, some of these men have been fired because of what we reported. Some of these men have been demoted, but none of them were ever criminally charged. Now I start with point number one. According to ATF agent Darrell Dyer, when he arrived at Waco on February 23rd, 1993, he was stunned to find that no mandatory documentation of the raid plan had been made. Agent Dyer and Agent William Crone set out to draft a plan, but on the morning of February 28th, the plan was never distributed. It remained in Crone's desk. The very warrant, point number two, the very warrant they were to serve was also left behind. So they entered the complex in Waco without a warrant, which essentially made it an illegal entry onto the property. With no raid plan and no warrant in hand, the ATF proceeds with the raid. ATF agent Roland Basteros, 10 days after the raid, makes two statements to Texas Rangers that the ATF shot first and made no announcements that they were federal agents. This was a tape-recorded conversation, which is in the vaults of the Texas Rangers. ATF agent Samuel Cohen stated in court testimony the first shots he heard come from MP5 submachine guns and 9mm pistols. And he states again, these were the first shots that he heard on February 1993. The MP5s were the same guns the ATF was using, according to Cohen. Point 6, it is well documented that Vernon Wayne Howe, a.k.a. David Koresh, left the complex many times when under the surveillance of many as 8 ATF agents. Agent Robert Rodriguez told me personally the reason he was not arrested when he was observed leaving was that they had a search warrant and not an arrest warrant. We checked at the courthouse, and in this packet is that very warrant. Checking at the courthouse in Waco, I found the warrant was an arrest warrant. It was not a search warrant, as he has stated and lied to me at the time. And again, I swore to this testimony. ATF code name of the operation was Showtime. I feel the code name itself reflects the spirit of the raid. The FBI takes charge of what has become known as the 51-day siege. The FBI, through the Department of Justice, requests Texas Governor Ann Richards for the use of helicopters from the Texas National Guard Armory. The request is granted even though Texas law forbids the use of National Guard in a police action against the state, except when drugs are involved in that criminal action. Nowhere in the warrant is drugs mentioned. According to a magazine article written by Jim Pate, a freelance writer, told a high-placed official with the ATF stated to him that ATF had fabricated the story of drugs to gain the use of the helicopters. Later, Governor Ann Richards stated publicly she had been lied to by the Department of Justice. And again, a criminal action on part of the ATF when they lied to the governor of the state of Texas. And against this, all of this material that we're talking about, this particular point that I'm bringing forward, is a matter of record in the U.S. Congress at this time. And this particular testimony by this particular writer, James Pate, who writes for a national publication, is sworn to and an affidavit been made of it. So they have all this in hand. It's been in their hand for 5 years. Major O'Rourke, stationed at Fort Hood, makes a taped statement that men and equipment are used in a police action against the United States, which we jointly as a news team and citizens of this country believe to be a violation of the Constitution. And of course now we know that it is. And again, I myself recorded this on a tape recorder with Major O'Rourke sometime in the summer of 1993, and that also is in the hands of Congress today. We are going to have to take a commercial break, then we're going to come right back with more, and shortly here we'll be opening up the phone lines.
For good home-style cooking in a comfortable surrounding, visit Jean's Lasso Restaurant. 1.5
Hannah Reno advised that she was fully informed on the CS gassing plan. She also stated that she assumed full responsibility for the consequences of that action that led to the death of over 80 men, women, and children on April 19th, 1993. Now, she also later stated that she had talked to chemists and was fully aware of the possibilities of all things about this chemical agent that was being shot in. And we have here, which we're going to get into in a minute, this was another part of what we gave to Congress back at that time. This is from Professor George Ulick, who is one of the most renowned professors of chemistry in the field of kinetic chemistry and also just chemistry. And you have to know a little bit about kinetic chemistry to know. And we're going to tell you a little bit about this report from Dr. Ulick, who we put as one of our specialists on our team. And he also worked for the government before retiring and starting to teach chemistry at the University of Utah at Salt Lake City. And anyway, we're going to get on. The manual, now we're going to put this in point 15. The manual which Aldrich Chemicals, which supplies the sale of CS, plainly states the chemical is to be used as a riot control agent only, not to be dispersed